Well, I hope everybody had a happy new year as you head into 2024 and you get a lot of extra fishing time on the water this year and get the chance to enjoy that. So we've been fishing down here on the San Antonio shoreline, this south side, all the way down. And the biggest thing here, we're in our transition days with our big moon. We're on the back side of that now, headed toward a new. So we've had a lot of moving water. Lots of tides have dropped out on us. Really low water, negative tides. It's been something you have to really contend with and really be smart about where you're going to fish and what you're going to do. So we like to target guts and cuts during that time frame because typically what will happen is you'll pull a lot of fish off the flats, especially if you got a deep water adjacent to that. And what typically we'll do is those fish will concentrate. If you've got some really cold water, we've had some cold air that's pushed in here to drop the water temps. Those fish will use that deeper water to help acclimate themselves. That's why, your rule of thumb this time of year is, in the wintertime, you want to fish deep, early, shallow, late because, shallow water heats up and cools off faster. So with that said, if you got mud flats and grass flats, they're close to the deeper water, so it gives you an opportunity later in the day. So if you want to even start your fishing day a little bit later, instead of getting out there at the crack of dawn, if that's when you're typically on it, which most fishermen are, pre-dawn, a little darkness, still kind of pushing there, waiting for that sun to pop up. Right now, you may want to wait till 8 or so, maybe a little bit. That sun's already popped and starting to head in the right direction as far as warming our water up because we have big bluebird skies have been in play and low winds, so that has helped warm our water up somewhat throughout the process of the day. Of course, it drops back down overnight, so that's just kind of going back and forth, yo-yoing, is what you would like to call that during the fishing mornings. But we're fishing these guts. We're working these deeper areas off that as we head down toward Panther Point, get into Panther Lake. And so with our negative tides, you've got a bunch of these little back lake mouths that's got guts in there that all have the capability of holding fish. So if you're going to fish that way technique-wise, that you want to make sure that you got 4 or 5 of these areas like that lined up. So one of the areas may not have fish in it. You may fish a gut for an hour or so and don't get any opportunities in there, so you want to be able to move on to the next one. You don't want to spend all day long in just one particular gut and maybe only get 1 or 2 opportunities. So one of them is going to have a multitude of opportunities that hold in there with it. And, of course, if you align that with a major or minor in there, so it gives you even that much more of an opportunity. And, again, with as much water that's been dropping out of our system, then we've got a lot of moving water as well. So another thing that's in your favor. So you got the 2 types of tides. You got wind-driven and tidal-driven. So we've had not a lot of the wind-driven tides, but we have had the big tidal-driven tides just because of how much water's been pushing in and pushing out. Get down in here. You can get over here on the back side of Panther Lake and Swan Lake, and these areas back here, they kind of lend themselves to open up with those negative tides. You can fish further out away from your shorelines and fish more open areas and find those types of areas that you maybe have some fish that are holding out over the top of that, especially if you got some little bit of submerged grass that's out there in the deep water that typically you would not be able to fish unless you were in a boat, maybe drifting it or anchored up, throwing plastics or whatever. But when that water really drops out and you're able to wade over the top of that, then it gives you more opportunity and more areas to fish. Down here off of Jaybird Point, headed down into Spalding. This is another one of the areas, especially when you have the super low tides that's taking place. The water's dropping out here. You've got lots of this area down in here. You can fish these, man. Great guts. Big old great flat that's out in front of these guts, man. You can fish that thing a long way out. You can run it all the way back up here toward the Fingers of Carlos. These come into play. The tops of these little reefs, the fingers, if you will be sticking out of the water when those tides are really super low, so you can get in those guts in that. Then, of course, you can pull it off out here on a little bit deeper edges. Of course, there's a little bit more shale and stuff here, so that temperature is typically going to be cooler in and around these types of things. So maybe not what you want to target early in the morning, but it may be a great midday location for you, or maybe early afternoon, depending on how your majors and minors fall. So if you really want to wait for, if you've got a cold morning or a particular day, or how they ever line up, and you can get to that. So that may be, we're going to fish that area, but we want to fish it, late in the afternoon to that degree and give it more time to warm up for you. So it gives you a great opportunity for later in the day for somewhere else to fish as far as locations go. But back here over to the Spalding area, in this big flat that's out here on outside of these mouths here that drop out, man, you got everything that you need for this time of year. You've got mud in there, you've got clump shell, you've got scattered grass in there. As long as you got a little bit of bait working there, which, our bait is pretty scarce now that we've had some cold temperatures that have pushed our water temps down. We've kind of some fluctuating tides and stuff, so it's really pushed a lot of the residual bait that we had from back in October and September, but it's pretty much gone now. So you just got primarily mullet, a few pin perch here and there, some scattered shrimp, but primarily is your mullet's going to be your main source of bait that's going to be working here. So, and there won't be a lot of it. So just depending on what your temperatures are the day that you get to fish, or the day that you're targeting to fish, those are the days when you see one or two pieces of bait that are flipped, you want to throw at them, because more than likely there's going to be a predator in and around chasing that fish. So just a good thing to keep in the back of your brain when you're working some of these areas like that. But yeah, we're concentrating on these guts that are in here in Spalding and working back as far as we can. Great amount of mud that's in here. He's got some scattered shell that's in here. So again, just like we're talking about over in San Antonio Bay, is you've got 4 or 5 of these places like this. You've got the deeper guts. So line them up for you, because if one particular gut doesn't have it, one of the other ones probably will have it, especially if you got everything that lines up for you. Bait, i.e. water temp, structure, everything that's in play there. Again, majors and minors have always been a key for us, no matter what time of year it is. It's even more so now. Again, we're on the backside of a big moon, so make sure you adjust your baits accordingly. You're going to have those wild card days, so you'll have a little bit of different everything that's in there as far as your bait goes. But primarily what we've been using in the down south, been throwing a lot of the burner shads, especially around the big moon. The knock and tail lures, throwing those as well. Same flavors as before: white ice, bone diamond, rogue, heavy metal, greenbacks, all have been the same. Back over in the burner shad, we've been throwing pretty much throwing firecracker and mud minnow on that, and then of course in the mirror lure, we've sprinkled in some provoker in there. Really good bait this time of year with that rat tail that's on it. It's 5-inch bait, and they got multiple flavors in that. And then of course one of my favorites is the Little Johns. We've been throwing the kitchen sink and golden red glitter have been very productive for us. Double D's been another great one. Soft Dine XL, all those been very good baits. So you got a bunch of different arsenal as far as ammunition to use. So just make sure you got 2 or 3 of those in there if your box is big enough, or you carry 2 boxes, or if you just kind of want to work plastics on one way and work suspended baits on another one, so be it. That'll be just fine. And that gives you lots of opportunity. But again, make sure that you're paying attention to what these tides are doing, because we've had lots of negative tides here the last few days. And I'm sure that's going to be a continuing theme, especially as we're moving toward a new moon. And we got weather patterns that's going to line up for us. It's going to change things for us as we move through January. Over here off the point, just across from Rattlesnake Point, Swan Lake area, Port Bay. Again, with the big tides that we've had pushing out of here, negative tides, this is a great area to get into, especially you got the same type of structure that you need, man. You got mud, you got grass, you got some scattered shell, deeper water. So if you wanted to fish this particular area, you've got that deeper water edge that's there. So if those fish are hanging off in there, you have an opportunity. So that's where, you're throwing suspended bait that's in here. MR27 would be a great choice here. The Double D, if you can get it down there. Of course, your Corkies, your Mirrodines, XLs, all those, and then of course your regular plastics. And so if you're going to throw something that's going to be a little bit deeper water, that 3 to 5 foot of water, maybe even 6 foot of water, depending on how cold it is, that's where you may want to put an 1/8 ounce on. But if it's super cold water, you're not going to want it to be just dropping super fast. So that's why you stay with the 1/16 ounce, maybe even a 32nd ounce if you have to. Which is not a terrible choice. That bait really just floats down through the water column very easily, so it gives you opportunity, but you just have to change the way that you fish. You have to slow everything down. And that's the primary thing about wintertime fishing. Slow everything down. Fish react accordingly. So we like to fish this edge out here, work all that area there, get up on these flats. It's back on the back side here in Port Bay, continue down the shoreline, all the way on this west shoreline here. Way down toward 188, this whole shoreline, you got an edge that's in there, so it gives you lots of opportunity areas to fish. Like I say, when that water really pulls out, you can push further away from the shoreline, and you can fish areas typically you would not have been able to, because it's just too deep to fish it, at least from a wading standpoint. But these areas here, great thing. Again, it's all the same things we've been throwing. The down south, same flavors. Knock and tail, the same flavor, 1/16 ounce. Mirror lure Little Johns have been very good for us. The suspended baits, and what I just mentioned, the soft dines and the soft dine XLs. Been using just the regular soft dines during the big moon, just at a little bit smaller profiles. Very good. We've got a lot of opportunities with it. We have very productive few days when we were using those. And of course, you upsize a little bit to the XL has been pretty good. Double D's been good for us as well. But again, all those different flavors of baits and kinds of baits, profile wise. Like I say, we're in the transition days now, so you want to have a different choice in case something, it's not working out for you as far as a profile or color or size or whatever. You got different choices in your box. So always make sure that you're plenty prepared for that. Again, majors and minors are a big thing. Working those time frames in and around that, locating baits even more important this time of year as it would be, say spring and summer when there's tons and tons and tons of bait around. Right now, there's not a whole lot of bait in our system. So once you find that, you're probably going to find fish are going to be in around that. So that's why that particular aspect of your techniques and things of what you're wanting is very important this time of year. Just take your time, work areas, be very patient with areas because you may catch a bite 2, 3, 4, and then all of a sudden you get into some good fish. So remember that this time of year. Everything slows down, your process changes. So just take time and be patient with these particular things. If you get a bunch of little fish and you don't want to keep catching those and you want to move, so just kind of keep the structure in mind, what you're catching them on, what kind of shoreline you're catching those on, and move to the next location because that carries. So, Pete's Bend, Italian Bend, all those areas line up the same type of way. So you get lots of options that are in there. Again, pay attention to what your weather patterns are doing. Just be prepared. This time of year, things can get kind of crazy on you. And hope everybody has a great 2024.